We're live.
Yeah, all good.
Welcome to episode 6 of the GSP Team Podcast, folks. With myself, Ayshea and Cillein. A few questions came up during the week. One was a comment on YouTube. A couple were some Instagram things. We can't get to everything, obviously, but we're going to chat about a few bits. And we might have a little chat about Cillein's Giants Live invite at the end of it as well.
We have to. He doesn't want to do it.
He doesn't want to talk about it, but I want to talk about it. So he kind of has no choice. We're live on YouTube. You're going to have to talk about it.
Yeah.
So we'll just crack into it. The first thing that came up after last week's podcast was feedback on YouTube about a question. They liked the podcast, blah, 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 but they had a question. So it's peeing during a big lift. This is going to come down to Ayshea for women. This woman says she trains in a gym with a lot of strong women. They'd be afraid to do a competition in case they pee themselves when they're competing. It's kind of the embarrassment side of it, I suppose, really is what it comes down to. So what's your feedback? What are your thoughts? You're going to have more on this than we will, I'd say.
So I remember I did a blog post, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, just around the experiences that women get when they go into, say, powerlifting and strong women that they don't realise that may happen, okay? And there's a few different areas, but one of the biggest things I think is peeing yourself. Over the past, I have a very kind of direct thought process on this, and it probably isn't going to be popular, but I don't really care. And it's coming from experience and anatomy and everything else. And the past year to 18 months, I think there has almost been a glorification, I think, of peeing oneself. It's been out there an awful lot. I think there's been a lot of videos on Instagram and stuff of girls literally in full flow after deadlifting, right? I personally don't think there's any need for that. And I think if somebody was coming into my gym and every time they were deadlifting, anything over a certain weight was going into full flow, I would be extremely pissed off because there is no need for it in a majority of cases, right? Aside from that, it does happen, and be prepared for the fact that once your lifts get heavier, deadlifting, and particularly, I find it with stones more so than anything else now from a personal point of view, that the heavier the deadlifts got from time to time, more so than squat or anything else, I might pee, right? There's a couple of reasons why that would happen. And normally if my bladder is too full and I haven't gone for a pee beforehand and haven't emptied my bladder. We do have a thing that we laughingly refer to any women who are still very new to strength sports as the second bladder or the hidden bladder, because you think you've got nothing left and you've had a good pee, and the next thing you come out and you lift a heavy stone and you're peeing for Ireland again. So two aspects, I suppose, of this. There are those who don't address that there is a situation, and there is those who are unaware that the situation can happen and you can actually pee yourself when you're lifting heavy. But it doesn't happen all the time. If you think it's going to put you off lifting, the one thing I can say to you is there's things you can do. Like, again, making sure that your bladder is empty before you go to the toilet. A lot of us wear a sanitary towel, or some of the girls actually go as far as an incontinent pad, just to stop the embarrassment of, if you're going to pee, that it doesn't go everywhere. And also, you don't want to be walking around in wet leggings and wet shorts for amount of time, or having to take a load of clothes with you all the time to change your clothes because you peed yourself. I want to go back to the point I made, that it does happen. It doesn't have to be all the time. It doesn't have to be excessive. And I just want to get that point across.
Can I just go back to one thing you said about the glorification of it? Do you think people think it's not pissing themselves, not working hard enough? Is that what you mean by that?
I think that's what was probably being put out there for a while. Do you know, because, if you're doing a really heavy lift and you pee everywhere, you're exerting yourself. When I pulled the 240, I didn't pee myself. But when I did a 90 kilo stone one motion, I peed myself. So do you know what I mean? And I've done a 140 stone. Yeah. So, and again, that's something that's actually more recently is the stones as they've got heavier. And I think it's because of the position that the stone is on my stomach more than anything else. What I want to flip back to is how you can control that, because it's actually not healthy if your bladder is actually that weak. And if you're deadlifting 50, 60 kilos and you're peeing, there's something most likely wrong with your plumbing. Okay, so with your bladder control. What they used to see a lot of with women who had children was a weakness in the bladder, right? And what we would talk about in the medical term would be doing pelvic floor exercises. And there would be an old school thing, I think, of encouraging women to do pelvic floor, which is actually part of your your core, which people don't realize. So your pelvic floor is all linked to your core. And if your core is exercised and you're doing your pelvic floor as part of that, it should prevent a lot of peeing at an early stage rather than at a bit more control, because your bladder is more controlled. So especially if you're a person that finds if you sneeze, every time you sneeze, cough or laugh, you're peeing a bit, then I would be saying to you, look at your pelvic floor, not look at your pelvic floor, but work on your pelvic floor, right? Because you can't physically look at your pelvic floor. Yeah, and have a look. To work on your pelvic floor, right? Because that is the one big thing. And I'm going to give you a story of around this. So when I first started powerlifting, there was a lady who's actually in the medical profession, and every time she would deadlift, and it wouldn't even be her max, she would pee. And I mean, she would full on piss all over the deadlift platform. And like, we were really new to it, and we were like, oh, what the hell is this crap? Because none of us were peeing at that point, and we were like, this is crazy. Is this what's going to happen? We didn't know. We just seen this. Anyway, roll on this lady. She wasn't powerlifting for a year or so, and then we saw her at a powerlifting meeting. We were just chatting to her, and she was lying on the floor doing some strange core exercises, and we were chatting to her. And she was like, oh, she says, no. She said, I wasn't powerlifting for a while. She said, but I had a real issue, she said, with pissing myself every time I go to exert myself. And it wasn't even a max. It'd be like 50% upwards she'd be peeing. And like, she is a doctor. She's actually a doctor, right? And she was like, I realized my pelvic floor is rubbish. It's something I have to exercise. It's a muscle. The bladder sphincter is a muscle. So it needs to be exercised. Some people would have better bladder control and a stronger muscle, the same as the rest of us, right? With other muscles. So it was just being aware of that. And like, that was very conscious for me then, because of going, okay, well, I've had 3 kids. I haven't peed as yet. Then I would get to a heavier deadlift and I start to realize, oh, hang on, I'm peeing a bit here. That's obviously now I'm starting to, like, the belt was very tight. If it was in a certain position, it was putting that more pressure on the abdominal wall. So it was for me going, oh, how do I work around this? Okay, continue on with pelvic floor, right? So I would make sure I was doing my pelvic floor. I'd make sure my bladder was empty. For a while, I actually wouldn't drink a huge amount of water, and I still don't during competition, because A, I don't want to feel uncomfortable. B, I don't want to pee everywhere and feel uncomfortable. And it's not that it would stop me. If I was in the middle of a lift and I'm going to pee, it's going to have to go. Like, it's going to have to pee. The lift is going with me. So skipping back to, I suppose, one of the original questions was, should you let it put you off? No. Should you address it as a situation of how you can lessen it from happening? Yes, I think you should. And the sense of, for a while there, where people were going, okay, it's perfectly fine to just pee everywhere all the time from 50% up, I don't think that's fine at all. If you are exerting yourself and if you happen to pee, don't panic, don't worry about it, but there's things that you can do to prevent it or to lessen it.
So don't just ignore what's happening. Don't let it embarrass you, but don't just ignore it and actually fix the problem.
Exactly. Well, look at not even fix it, because you might not be able to actually fix it, but to improve upon it. Because again, it's more, and I always try and take it away from, it's not just about lifting. If you are going through everyday life and you start to experience more and more shit. Now, if you're lifting heavy, you are going to get issues with your pelvic floor if you're not working those muscles, because you're putting a huge amount of pressure on your bladder and your abdominal wall. And I actually laugh about this because we said it before, how guys don't pee themselves, right? Like, why don't guys pee themselves? Because they're plumbed very differently to women. Guys, and I know you two, we had this conversation, but I know more frequently, I think, that guys may shite themselves a bit rather than they've never peed themselves. No guy I've ever said that. They've come close. Or
it'd be a lot more likely, definitely, to shit yourself than it would be to piss yourself.
Okay, so again, and then I kind of go, well, I'd rather piss myself than shit myself.
I think I would too, to be honest.
Might slide the deadlift up a bit easier.
Yeah, could get rid of competition because the smell is so
you're
bad.
not allowed to use baby oil. Yeah, it just work.
Some shite on it, yeah. But no, so like, yeah, it's be prepared. It could happen. And most likely it will happen at some point. Don't be embarrassed by it. Okay, I can imagine if you're in a commercial gym and you happen to do it, it could be embarrassing, but kind of clean up and move on, and just take those precautions and those extra measures. And like, just quickly back to it, it's a muscle. It has to be exercised. If you have had kids, there's more likelihood, but I'm seeing it, and we've seen it more in women, young women who haven't had children. So in my mind, unless you have a surgical issue, then you should be fixing that. There is less a reason for you to be peeing everywhere.
Yeah, like I've seen it in comps, like where women would pee themselves a small bit and they'd be absolutely mortified. So it obviously doesn't happen to them regularly, I would say.
Yeah.
Whereas then you would see the people who have kind of like you said, they're just gushing everywhere.
Yeah.
And it regularly happens as well. And you're kind of there going, so in your mind, that person needs to absolutely be working on that. And trying to improve
I think they should be trying to work on it, improving it. And I'm not being a dick. I probably am, but I'm trying not to be a dick and go, I've had 3 kids and I lift really heavy and I manage not to gush on every lift.
Yeah.
So if you are peeing excessively on every lift, sort it out, girls, because there's something not right. You are neglecting pelvic floor. There's a huge amount of information out there on Kegels, on pelvic floor exercises. And likewise, it's going to help you for when you get older, because there are issues that can happen to women with womb prolapses. There's an awful lot of horrible shit out there that can happen. So again, taking it away from just weight training and just the minor embarrassment of peeing when you do an excessive lift is something that you need to be aware of.
And that'll be a really good blog post for you to do. Actually put some resources in there where they can find information on the
absolutely
exercises.
On Kegels and pelvic floor. Yeah.
I feel like most people who are experienced with strength sports, whether it be like powerlifting, strongman and strongwoman, I think everyone has seen that happen at some point, but like it's not like, most experienced people have seen this happen, but they're not like no one's gonna judge you for it. Like, it's just like the people who actually understand what the sport is are understanding that like when you're under that much pressure, like these things can actually happen. So it's like no one's ever going to ridicule you, and if somebody does ridicule you, well then they're just a fool, and just like don't listen to those kind of people.
It's like when me and you were going to have a good cry now this weekend at Giant Size, and we're seen on camera. Everyone's going to understand, aren't they?
Yeah. I hope so.
I hope we don't start crying, man.
Why do boys cry? No, and I think like it depends on the environment. Like I said there, if you're in a solid gym like this and it's happened to us, no one passes any. Like no, I've done it here. A couple of the other girls have done it, but no one pays heed to it. No, we clean it up, we move on. And the same in competition. Like we'll run out there, clean it up, off we go.
Yeah, just being adults about it.
Being adult about it. But I can,
that's a good tip.
But like I said, I can understand if you're in a commercial gym and next thing that you suddenly pee because you're doing a max deadlift.
And it never happened before, maybe.
And never happened before. So just be prepared. It can happen. But like I said, there's things you can, like a sanitary towel or an incontinence pad, if you know you're going to go for a heavy lift. So that's a pre-warning, I suppose, to anyone who hasn't had that experience. Be prepared. For anyone who has had the experience and is unsure how to deal with it, there are things you can do to stop it being as bad. But unfortunately, for the majority of us, at some point on heavy lift of some shape or form, you could be. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I think that's some good information for people right there. The next one then I want to touch on is another question that came in. So it's just regarding sleep. Or I said, what do you want us to talk about? So this person said sleep and any experience with night or shift work.
Yeah.
I don't have an awful lot at the moment. I've done some security years ago, but I would just sleep until 10 o'clock if I was in bed at 4 o'clock, and I get and that was fine for me at the time. You've worked nights and you've worked shift work, and you've also done nights and shift work.
12-hour nights, yeah.
I've never done anything like that. So again, I'm going to be fairly mute in this subject, and I'm going to let the two of you bash this one out.
It's a tricky thing to be in, because like I've been in a situation where like I've been working like 8 to 8, so like 8 in the evening to 8 in the morning, or working from say like 8 o'clock until 3 o'clock in the morning, and it can be very off-putting doing those kind of either way, like especially if like you're say working in a bar or something and you're coming home and you can be fairly like wired from the night out, from just like if you're working in a place with loud music and stuff. So kind of one thing I always say is just stay away from your phone as soon as you get home. Obviously, if you need to eat something. I find like using like zinc and magnesium definitely helps me just to kind of just like relax better and get me into a better state of mind, because I noticed if you stay on your phone for like more than like 10-15 minutes, you could be up to about like 6:30 in the morning, and then then you're kind of sacrificing sleep, because you don't want to be a case that you're waking up after midday kind of thing, like if you can get away with it. Like, but again, then the other side of it, when I was working at 8 to 8s, it's kind of like, and if you are just working night shifts consistently, well then you're going to have to just like reverse like your schedule, like, you know what I mean? So you're obviously going to be waking up probably about maybe like 3 o'clock, but I think especially with like dieting, you just got to be a little bit more careful that you're not like snacking too much over the nighttime, because a lot of times it's like you're not eating good quality stuff. You're just like picking on like biscuits or like just kind of just sandwiches and stuff. Like it gets very, very unhealthy very quickly. Like, but yeah, I personally was trying to say, like, if you can get a different job, if you wanted to be doing this kind of sports as well as working, like.
But for the person that can't get out of that job, or they're in that job and that's kind of what they're going to be doing, like prep
wise,
would that be
food prep?
Like to bring to work with you, so you're not picking.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, having food prep there, and it's kind of like having shakes and stuff, and like, you know, even like, let's say if it was a case that you wanted to, like, if you're trying to stay kind of like lean, having like an amino acid drink or essential amino acid drink be very, very beneficial, because at least then you're still kind of getting the recovery without all the added calories and kind of stuff. Like, so like, I just know from working in the shop, we have a lot of people who be doing kind of night shifts, and they prefer getting like the amino energy stuff just to kind of keep them topped up overnight. It's just, you're going to have to be a lot more thoughtful with what you do. Like, as well, I kind of found like coming home, I found what really kind of helps was having Greek yogurt and a scoop of casein protein, just because again, like, the working those hours can really throw your stomach off. And I just find having the Greek yogurt can be good, just kind of settling it, and then just casein protein is good then, just for kind of slowly to be kind of digested as you're sleeping.
When do you have dinner? Like, or how? I've never done these overnight shifts, so like
I think everyone's different. Like
when do you do dinner and breakfast, and what's going on? How does it work?
Well, like, say when I was working in the hospital, say like if I was doing night shifts, like I'd probably wake up about 3, go to the gym, like have something small to eat, go to the gym, come home, eat, try and eat again before I go to work, and then have another meal roughly around midnight. Okay. And then throughout the rest of the night, then I probably have like maybe like a cup of tea and maybe like a sandwich, and then like a shake then about maybe like 5 o'clock. So you were kind of trying to do a regular eating pattern, were you? Regular eating pattern. But it's so easy to get stuck in the method of just snacking, because you're just kind of just like, you're tired and you're just kind of like, it's like sometimes when you're in those situations, it's very easy to kind of like, oh, I deserve to kind of have things a little bit easier because I'm in a difficult situation. You know what I mean? And that's like a really, that has a snowball effect, where it's like that can play on to everything. You're just like, oh, I'm wrecked from my working night shift, so I'll just like, instead of having a proper meal, I'll just eat something that's like not very good and stuff. Like, and it's a slippery slope doing something like that. Like,
so I think it's kind of different as well, depending on what that person's asking. Because like I did evening and night shifts for case over 8 years. So you're actually in a routine of where you have to reverse it, pretty much. You know, I know at that point, like depending on where you're working, like I was working in the factory, there was a canteen, it was open 24/7 because it was night shifts and evening shifts. So I think evening shift is that little bit easier, I think, to kind of moderate, because you can stop eating at a certain time, have your dinners, get up at a decent time, and you can effectively have a regular kind of training schedule. Like you'd probably train in the morning time early once you get up. The night shift itself, I think 10, 12-hour night shifts become the little bit of a battle. And if it's something that you're going to be on long term, I personally think you have to get into that routine of eating properly, prepping. Like the canteens, if you're in a work environment, could be just serving shite. That's the other side of it. But otherwise, you're not going to get the food into you that you need to have. Now that you get the other problem then is on the 2 or 3 days that you're off, if you have family or whatever, and you then have to reverse back, you know, you can be a bit up and down with that. But I do think that if you are working consistently on nights, you need to be very planned and very good in your routine. And again, that doesn't always work for people. If you've got a young family, you could be surviving on 4 or 5 hours sleep. It is tough and it's shit. But like I said, if you will have to find a way to make it work for you.
I think it's a little bit easier if you're just working nights and evenings. Whereas like if you're on a rotating shift, if you're doing like say like nights one week and then evenings next week, or you could have maybe like one job that's during the day and then another job at night. That's I think when like a lot of the problems come into play, because you don't really know like what day it is or time it is, because your schedule is completely kind of like all over the place. Like, and I guess it's just something that you kind of just need to be a lot more conscious of, like that. It's really not going to be easy, and you're going to have to like sacrifice a lot of things. But I'd always try and allow myself to try and get at least 7 hours sleep if possible, but I wouldn't allow myself to stay asleep up past 10 a.m. because then I think it's just like, it's kind of like, although you need kind of sleep, it's just you need to be awake to kind of get yourself preprered for the kind of the rest of the thing.
This is what you're doing currently now. Getting to bed at like
because security. So because if anyone's not listening, everyone listen. I don't know. I do work in the shop, and then I do security 1 or 2 nights a week in a nightclub. Like, so it's kind of like, you know, it's, you really got to just, especially that Sunday, it's like you have to make sure, like for me anyways, on that Sunday, I have to make sure that I get myself up in good time and get everything done so I can actually go to sleep at a proper time. But it's kind of like, it's easier said than done.
Yeah. So it seems to be about creating habits and routines around the shift you're doing and just trying to make the best of it.
Yeah, and I think just being realistic that like, you know, there's only so much you can do, and it's difficult to kind of get everything done when you've got a normal routine. But when you've got a routine that's so split like that, you're going to have to make sacrifices in one way or in some way. Like, so you've kind of just got to like just kind of prioritize things and actually be a little bit more thoughtful and plan them out a bit better.
Okay. Is that everything we've got in that one?
I think so.
Did you take some sleep supplements or no, you don't anymore, do you? Magnesium and zinc, kind of like Cillein as well. Instead of
That's I'm on a regular kind of pattern now.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Take them every night.
You take them every night.
Very good, like especially with the zinc, because zinc's really good for cell reproduction. So especially if you're getting low quality sleep, that can definitely kind of help improve that quality of sleep then.
But zinc and magnesium together, like you can buy a Mazedame, would be a very powerful, I suppose, sleep inducer. I would find that if I'm not sleeping great, I would take zinc and magnesium, and it would actually give me a good heavy sleep, even for a short period of time. So, and it's completely natural, and the body needs it anyway for active recovery and repair. So
I think even if you're not working night shifts, I think everyone should be taking zinc and magnesium.
I sleep like a baby though.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do. But I've got some good habits before bed. Like I won't look at the phone for a long time before going to sleep. Like I should put on Metallica's new Screaming Suicide song there last day. And I was like 30 seconds in, I was like, turn that off. I'm going to bed in the next hour. I'm not listening to heavy metal, trance, anything fast paced and like aggressive. It's a no-go for me before bed because I want to fall asleep really quick and sleep really well. And all that shit can put you off. Like, I try and keep the laptop away.
That's good, yeah.
It's just kind of a habit I've gotten into, and it seems to. I sleep well.
You always sleep well. I don't know this habit thing. Like he's talking about habits. He sleeps like a bleeding baby all the time. Like,
so I work hard. I'm really tired.
I don't know about that. I think it's more the easy life this lad has.
Is it easy life?
Jesus tonight. Go on.
Okay, right.
Move on swiftly.
We'll move on very swiftly before me and Ayshea were out here in front of everyone. Cillein will get upset then, and sure look. Leg drive in the deadlift for tall people. So I know who this is. I obviously know who it is because it was a question that came in on Instagram. He's very tall. He's about 6'6", quite lean. I wouldn't say he's lanky or anything. Does strongman, like he's strong. Strong in many areas. Deadlift would be a weak point for this guy. Yeah. We don't coach him, but I just seen him compete enough to have a fair idea. So yeah, I'd say 6'5", 6'6", maybe. He's a big man, like. So like for me, when it comes to something like this, it's got to always come back to technique. Yeah, 100%. I think, and it's figuring out what works for that tall person. Some tall people work well with slightly wider stance, and some work quite well with a narrow stance as well. Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes down to just playing around with that, and then making sure your brace is on point as well.
Yeah, because I think what we've mentioned on podcasts before is like when I had to pull back my deadlift. And I think that the one thing that really kind of clicked in my head was I was trying to like manipulate my body around the bar, where what I started to do then, what made it actually happen was I started to use the bar to manipulate my body around it. And like they're two totally different things. What I was doing before is I just put my hands on the bar and I wasn't using it to pull myself in. I was like more trying to push my body into a proper position. And it's just like, it's, you know, that's, you can't really kind of do that at all. Like, so like once I actually kind of learned to like use the bar to pull myself into position, then like form came in perfectly and everything kind of like shot up. Like, so it's
once you learn to lock it in and float like your warm-up weights, that really changed your game. Like.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Because before, again, it was just like I was trying to like basically just like squish myself into position, like, and it just wasn't happening. Especially when you like, especially if you want to have your chest like pointed out so you can drop your hips back. Then like you're never going to be able to do that if you're just like if you're not actually kind of pulling with the bar. Yeah. Because I mean, like even like one person, like when I first started doing strength training, was like seeing somebody like Pete Rubish, he's roughly about 6'7", I think.
Is he that tall?
He's about 6'6", or maybe 6'5", 6'6".
Okay.
But he's taller than most people. Like he's like, because
He's a tall dude, yeah.
realistically, he could get away with doing sumo, but it was the fact that like he was that tall and he was still able to do conventional lifting.
Okay.
That I was just like, and it's just even looking at like Thor, Tom Saltman, Brian
Shaw,
Shaw, like I mean, like they've all learned how to deadlift. And if you look at Thor's first 300 kilo deadlift,
oh my God.
if anybody hasn't seen it, try and look at it on YouTube. It is
disgusting.
the most horrific thing I've ever seen. It's painful to watch, like, but then like that man went on to do 501 about like 10 years after that, like
And even down to the women, we take it down to what Lucy is, 6'2",
She's
6'3",
about the same height
and
as
she's got
me,
300 kilos.
Yeah.
Like I remember how her deadlift wasn't, a few years back would have been less than mine.
In the 210-220 range, was it?
Yeah, and
maybe.
all arms and legs. She's a big, tall girl, but she's worked out. Rebecca Roberts,
Absolutely.
So it would have taken technique. So I was looking at what I think what happens as well. A lot of people look at videos and they look at the Brian Shaws and the Rebeccas or whoever, right? But then they go, they read like these instructionals or they see this is the way to deadlift. Yeah. And as I try to tell everyone when you're coaching them, like, okay, that's a nice textbook standard of what it should look like, but your body mechanics are completely different.
And that's usually a good starting point for a newbie. But as you become a competitive athlete, you want to advance through. Like you'll get 20 people in this room. And you'll find 20 different techniques.
Exactly.
No one's going to have the same stance, same hand grip, same way of locking themselves in, same way of bracing. I'm sure, and I'm talking about 20 people who know what they're doing and have kind of mastered their technique to a degree. Mm-hmm. There'll be 20 different ways of doing it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Some of the essentials will be the same. You'll all be braced and locked in.
Yeah, exactly.
All that's kind of the key behind all of it is being braced properly from top to bottom. But you'll find different hand positions, different hip heights, different stances. Yeah. Are my toes pointing? Some people have their toes pointing out. Some people will be straight ahead.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be a little bit different. And I think this person in particular, and any other tall guy out there wondering about leg drive for the deadlift, you got to find a position that works for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think like if you find a reasonable position for yourself, you don't next week come in and go, right, I'm going to do something completely different. You make a slight change. You bring your feet out an inch and you really have a good think about whether that felt better than last week. Or you bring your hands out an inch, or it's small changes over time and finding what really works for you, I think.
Yeah. And again, being patient and not like, putting your ego aside. Because, again, like I had a 300 kilo deadlift with poor form, and then we spent like 3 months of just working at 140 kilos and like not going above that, just to actually nail it on the head. Like, so, if anyone else is out there and you're just reluctant on actually, taking the time out to actually do it properly, then like, you gotta be realistic that you're not really going to get that far, and you got to just have to be putting in the work for it. Like
absolutely. And then like aside from form, a couple of exercises I do like for people to improve their leg drive off the floor, particularly for the tall guys, because maybe their legs won't be as strong a lot of the time. Would be like a deadlift stance, bell squat, or leg press for relatively high reps. I think that can be really useful as well, but it's only useful if you sort your form out.
Do it properly.
You have to sort your form out first. That doing all the exercise and accessories in the world won't help until you've nailed down your technique.
Yeah, especially with tall people, you always see like their hips are always too high, and then it's just basically they're more or less just pulling with their back, and there's little to no leg drive. You need to keep your hips down much lower than like most of the tall people.
A lot of them end up doing just stiff leg deadlift.
It's more or less, and then it's just all on the back.
So I don't know if there's much else we can add to that. Really, is there? But like it is again finding the individual positions that work well for you. And I always think going back to the brace, because even if you're in the perfect position and you're not braced properly, through your upper back and your core, you're just going to fold over as you drive off the floor. Like you're going to turn into that stiff leg position. You're not going to actually or cat taking a shit. You know what I mean? It's going to be, you're going to fall into one of them positions because you're not going to be able to hold a good position as you drive off the floor.
That's why I think like practicing the float in the bar is such a beneficial thing for most people, because like you're not really gonna. It's very like, let's say like John Ginty, he can literally just like bend down his knees a bit, touch the bar, and he's in perfect position. And just biomechanically, that's just the way he is. But like most people, you're going to have to actually pull the bar a bit off the ground and pull your shoulders back to be in a proper position. And it may, you're realistically, you can do that with maybe like 60 kilos. You're probably not going to be able to do it with 180 or 220 kilos. But like just getting in that habit of pulling yourself into the bar is going to actually kind of align you up properly when it comes to like heavier lifts.
And for anyone that doesn't know exactly what Cillein's talking about, if you watch a really good deadlifter, like someone like Cillein or Ayshea, 60, 100 kilos, maybe 140, 180 for you. I don't know if you do 140, but as they're warming up and they're getting tight and getting locked into position and bracing with 100 kilos, it floats off the ground without them actually lifting the weight. They're not trying to lift it, they're just getting into a really good, strong position, and through tightness and bracing, the bar floats. And then they pop, and you know you're in a good position when that happens. Now, as it comes into the heavier weights, you're not going to be able to do that, but they have the same intent the whole way through. I think that'll be another good video for us to actually do, to explain to people.
Sure, see what it means.
If they haven't actually seen it, they don't understand it. We might do that one of the days.
No, that sounds good. Because it's hard to kind of explain. Like,
it is hard to explain. People probably listen to us going, "What the fuck are they talking about? Why is the bar off the ground before they lift it? They're not actually lifting it." But I think if we do a video, it'll make
it's a very powerful thing to learn how to do. Like,
it's like we had a lot of new guys down here a few weeks ago, like online guys, and we gathered them all around. I got Dave to come down and show it, and we talked them through it. And if they can all nail that as well, you know, if they went home and said, right, you're going to work on that a couple times a week, it's going to change their game. Change your game.
Change my game massively. Like, I wouldn't be at a 4-10 deadlift without it. Like, not a chance.
Still mid 300s probably.
Probably realistically.
So anything else on that one?
No. I think it's covered it.
Just more technique, just work it. If you don't have a coach, get yourself a coach. You're never going to learn this by yourself. Realistically, like
that's a really good point.
It's like nobody, like especially if you're very serious about it, there's only so far you can get it by yourself. Especially if you've got no knowledge of strength sports whatsoever. Like you need to have somebody from an external viewpoint, because you're either going to be biased to yourself and, like, you know, ignore the things that you're bad at and then just focus on the things that you're really good at, and you're never going to fucking get anywhere with it.
That's a really good point. Really good point. No, I think we've covered that one quite extensively. And something I want to talk about is Cillein Shines Live.
Hey, Cillein.
I've been wanting Cillein to do some blog posts and talk about this, but he just wouldn't do it. Like, so we have him cornered now, don't we, Ayshea?
Yeah, we do. You're not going anywhere, mate.
So I want you to go through it from the beginning. Like, what's the initial reaction? What, like, when you first got the call? I was there, essentially. But
I know. When you rang me, you just said it's just like, you better be sitting down. I actually thought something fucking bad had happened.
I was like, you're going to faint, man.
Yeah, I was just like, what the fuck's happened here? Like, and then you said it to me, and I was just like, my heart is beating out my chest, but I just didn't really. It still hasn't kind of like fully hit me yet that I'm going, like, even though I'm leaving tomorrow for it. But yeah, I've just been, again, like, I don't want to be getting too excited either, because I don't want to, like, just be burdening myself up. Because I know going into this, I'm probably going to be about maybe 75% primed for this competition, because there's such little prep done. I've only done 3, like last week was supposed to be a deload week, but I've done 3 kind of heavyish sessions for this show. Like, but the way I see it is just like, so I've got no prep done for it. I've got nothing to lose, but everything to gain. So, you know, like, beating people that are going to be there who've actually prepped for the show will actually make me look a lot better, because it's just like, if I can do that without any prep, you know, it's like, what can I do with actually, you know, a proper head start on it? Like, so, I'm just really excited for this opportunity.
Because, like, realistically, you're nowhere near ready. Not to the extent we'd want you to be. Obviously, you'd want to be, but. I mean, it is what it is, and like you said, you just have to go in there and give it your all.
Give it all, yeah. Like, luckily, you've been training for the GSP Cup. That's like 5 weeks from now, is it?
Something like that.
I've completely forgotten about the competition.
That doesn't matter for you right now.
That was my biggest kind of focus at the moment. But it's just been a very last minute. But, like, I'm not going to complain. I mean, like, it's a great opportunity. Like, so this is exactly what I've been training for. Like, so I've just got to go out and fucking grab it as much as I can. I kind of know, like, the first event in particular probably just be more like damage control, just because, like, deadlift is usually a good event for me, but it's like deadlift ladder with this, and obviously you can have suits on, but the only things that kind of going against me is most of the guys, they've been training doing mixed grip for the first couple of reps and then switching over to their straps, and although realistically I would have the potential to do that, I haven't trained it, so my body isn't prepared for it, and I would be very worried to just pop a bicep or something. And as well, with the deadlift suit, I've only done 1 rep at a time in training. I haven't actually done multiple reps. So if I'm going from one to another and then having to set up each time, like, that's definitely going to be challenging. But I know, like, it's from 300 to 380 kilos. So getting up to, I think getting 360 kilos will do enough to kind of secure me good enough points. Then the event after that is a 450 kilo car walk. Done 350 last week. And again, it's just kind of like if I had the time to actually prepare my body for that weight instead of having to just like jump straight into the deep end. But I know I can finish it. I've just got to, not kind of head off too quickly at the start.
Yeah.
Just kind of pick it up, get a feel of it, and then just kind of quickly accelerate over time. Like, and I think that's going to be, where a lot of people probably make mistakes. Then load medley, I think just kind of getting more familiar, like on the day, try to get familiar with the implements that are there. It's nothing too heavy. It's like a 100 kilo anchor, 120 kilo sandbag, 120 kilo keg, and 100 kilo tire. So like load medley is usually good enough event for me. And then 150 Viking press for reps, probably the best option I had for pressing events. Technique, there's not much to it. You just got to pick it up and rep it out. So
it's a nice one to get when you get a short call up.
Short call up, yeah.
If it was an axle or dumbbell which you haven't been training,
Yeah,
it's very difficult to
nightmare work. Yeah,
nightmare. Yeah, but whereas Viking
Viking,
press,
just go for it. Like,
Just go
so I'd be fairly confident get maybe 7 or 8 reps on that, and then last one is power stairs, 200 kilos, 250. So that's another one I'm really excited to do. Like I feel like it could definitely suit me. So like the goal going into this is top 5. I mean, like if I can come top 5 and no prep against like a strong lineup like this, like it'll definitely make me look good in front of the promoters.
I'm surely it would give reason for them to call you up again.
Yeah,
Something else that later this year, like
100%. Like, and I know even like top 3, I think you get invite to Worlds. So that's best case scenario from this situation.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's very exciting. And then like, so like I suppose training wise, you just spoke about it. Like it's we just kind of touched on everything, I suppose, and there's not much else you could do. Like this week, then mindset, is it different to like say UK's last year when you were prepared for it? Like, are you how's the headspace with this? Because you've known about everything you've been doing before. You've had long preps already. So where are you at mentally with it? Like,
I think with UK's last year, I was like, by the end of it, I just wanted to fucking do it. Like, because I think it was a 16-week training cycle for UK's last year, and it was like, it felt like UK's was never going to happen, and I was just like going through this torture every week for nothing, and it was just like, it was really hard. It was getting to the point where it was really hard to actually see the end goal for that prep. Like,
worked
but
well though.
Yeah, well, by the time I actually got over to the competition and everything, like it was fine. Like, but it was like, I think by the end of it, I just didn't, like, as bad as I just didn't really care. I just wanted to, when you kind of get to that point in training, you're just like, let's just fucking do it. That's kind of where I was at. Like, coming.
We've all been there.
Yeah, we've all been. That's kind of where like it was with UK's, but like this time, I'm just kind of trying to take the same approach I had when I done the deadlift competition back in October. Yeah, I think it's October. Like literally, like I didn't get hyped up at all during training for that deadlift. The week of the deadlift, I wasn't even thinking about it, which is the same as this week. I haven't really put much thought. Like, I'm doing small bits of visualization, but I'm not like as I was before, getting like really excited and like amped up and stuff, because it's just like I'd rather actually just save that for the day of the competition. So I've been relatively calm and relaxed.
You try not to think about it a lot.
No. I just like because I wrote an article actually for the page, like, and I just you're kind of like you're draining. You can really drain yourself by just like using up your adrenaline and excitement, thinking about something for so long, like, and then it's just like by the time it comes, it's just like, because that's what I kind of felt like happened to me at Ireland's 2021. By the time like competition, it was so fucking hard to actually switch on, and I was having to just like like sniff the hell out of the smell and salt or something just to kind of get me tuned in, because I'd been so worked up about that bloody competition for so long. So I kind of learned from my mistakes in that way. It's just better just to like just stay calm and just like get excited and angry or aggressive when you actually need to be. Like, there's no point of me being, like fucking sitting at work, like being like, oh, or like, going to bed or something like that. Like, but yeah, no, I'm just trying to stay like cool and calm as much as I can, like, and just save my mental energy for the competition.
You're the same, in fairness, for like OSG and the big ones.
Well, I suppose again, I've done a little vlog there this morning about this, and it's more where I've kind of drawn. I'm doing more sports and exercise psychology at the moment with the course, and interestingly enough, it's starting to make an awful lot of sense. So the more experienced you become in competition, the less you need to have that psyched up
Yeah.
situation, right? Because it's more of a point of skill and motivation now for your adrenaline, right? What we do here, we've done it every day for thousands and thousands of repetitions. So we need to be focused on what we're doing and executing properly. So then on the day when we need to flip that switch, we can flip that switch. And I think actually you saying about that, one of the biggest things, remember Zydrunas and
Big V
and Big Z at OSG in 2017. The two guys were sitting there, two chairs pulled out in between events, chilled, sat there eating pizza, not a bother on them, completely relaxed. But once they got out there and they had to do what they had to do, their focus was switched on. And I think that's something that's, again, when we've spoken about experience before, that's where you're coming to now.
Yeah.
You know, whether you probably don't realize it, but you're starting to become a seasoned athlete and you are maturing in that respect. So you now know that the 22, 23-year-old Cillein with little experience of competition doesn't need to be going full gung-ho in here.
Yeah.
Or prior to that competition, there's a time and a place for it.
Yeah, and I think that kind of comes down to actually knowing what you're capable of and actually having like the real
confidence.
Having the confidence going into it and not like, because you see some people where they want to like lift really heavy weights and be really aggressive in the gym to give them the confidence that they can actually go out and do that in competition.
Yeah.
But like most of the time you see like that person ends up getting injured or doesn't lift as much as they do on the actual day. Like, so
yeah.
I think it's kind of just the more experience I've done, I've kind of just surprised myself in competitions and started to get a bit more comfortable and confident in what I can actually do. Like, and I don't really see much of a point in like putting a limit on what you actually can do, because like if you're going to put a limit on, that's never going to happen. So I don't like to, like, some people ask me like, oh, what do you think you could lift in the long term? And I don't really like answering that question because like I don't want to, like,
sky's the limit.
Yeah, because like some people say with my deadlifts like, oh, do you think you do 500? And I was like, yeah, but like I want to be able to think past that barrier, like, because I mean like people can get so kind of just like caught up in their own limitations that like they become kind of just like a prisoner to them.
Yeah.
I remember like there was a girl we were chatting to before and she was stuck on 67.5 kilo bench and she was so amped up and wanting to get that 70 kilo bench. And I remember saying to her at the time, going, you need to look past it. It's exactly that. If you're fixating on just a 2.5 kilo, what do you do after that? Like, but if you put your mind out and say, I want to get the maximum bench that I can ever get, and there is no number on that, you'll just keep improving because you'll push through and you'll push through because you're just trying to be better. So like that, you're not putting limitation. When you start putting those limitations, it becomes an issue. But I suppose that for you now with Britons is there is no limitation. You know what you want to get, you know what you're capable of getting, and but you've got there's no expectation on you other than that, because like there's no prep, late call up. And I was actually saying before, one of my best competitions was Brits back in 2018, because we didn't know until the week before whether I was actually going to be going. And I went into that going whatever, and I went into it so relaxed. Ended up coming second to Andrea, by 3 points. So do you know what I mean? It's like that wasn't expecting that at all. So sometimes those competitions can be the most rewarding.
It'll be great to see you up against a whole new group of athletes as well. Yeah, because UK's was that. It was a whole new group of athletes, but now there's a whole new group again. Some same guys, but like you're going to be up against Hicksy, Felix,
some of the icons. Look at that now.
Adam Bishop.
Would that give you butterflies?
But these are all world's strongest man finalists. Yeah. So it's going to be really good to see where you are right now. Not even ready for this comp, but up against these guys.
So you test.
It's a really good test. Yeah, it's really good. It'll be really interesting to see. Yeah, it's exciting. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, really exciting.
And that's the real meaning of strongman, really. That's the real meaning of strongman, though. Go in and see what you can do.
See what you can do. Yeah. Test yourself out.
Yeah, of course.
Put yourself out there. Yeah. So I think that's everything battered out for today. Any extra points anyone wants to add in or talk about?
So we mentioned the dogs. The Learn Strongman.
Yeah,
just throw that out there in the podcast just to see. Like.
So I might as well mention it actually. Cheeky plug, yourself. So we are doing a Learn to Strongman course here. So we're doing in person and online. In person in the gym's capped at 6 people. All the information's out there on our social media accounts. Basically, what we want to do is we're looking for people that haven't competed in strongman really. I suppose if you've done one comp maybe and you're kind of lost in what you're doing, we could help there. But ideally, we're looking for people with a little bit of experience in lifting weights that want to get into strongman, and we'll put them through the motions with all the events and teach them everything about strongman, how to train, how to do the movements. It's a real beginner strongman course, like it really is, and it's going to be really focused in on making you the best well-rounded strongman you can be, and I suppose getting to people first before the terrible habits set in, so that we don't have to fucking fix them. It's kind of like you with your deadlift years ago. It's just terrible habits you had from years of doing it like that, and it took years to redo that and to fix that. And we've seen that time and time again. So if we can get to people before that and teach them good habits, that'd be absolutely brilliant.
You don't realize how lucky you'd be to be in that situation.
Yeah. And for the people online that'll be doing it, you'll be in a WhatsApp group with myself, Ayshea, and Cillein, all giving feedback and all helping out. So that'll be pretty cool. Whatever about me, like you've got an OSG champion there, and Cillein going to Giants Live now, and good old Matt. Good old Matt.
He likes to be the genius behind it all.
The genius behind it all, yes. But not much of an athlete no more.
Living his dreams through the rest of us.
Yes. Definitely living my dreams through you all. So I think, there's anything else to add to that?
I think that's it.
No. If you have any questions on anything, guys, or any topics you want to hear us talk about, just shoot us, any of us, a message, and we'll jot it down and we'll chat about it one of the days. We can't get to everything every week, but we'll do our best to get through as much as we can. If you're enjoying them, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Ding, ding. Yeah, that's what Luke does. Right? Share it with people. If you think anyone can get anything out of these clips or out of the full podcast, please share it on so they can learn.
If you'd like to troll us, because that's also good.
Yeah. All right. Take it easy, guys. Bye-bye.
Excellent.